to the honourable member for Goldstein.
Well, thank you, Deputy Speaker. And Speaker. Thank you, Speaker. And if you want to see the contempt that the Albanese government has for families, households and small businesses, you just need to see the arrogance of the Prime Minister in question time. Every time we get up to ask a simple question about the survival of small businesses, he shuts down question time. And he has good reason to do so, because the simple reality is last year we had more small business insolvencies in the Commonwealth than we have had in Australian history. I hear the heckling from the Minister for Small Business on the other side of this chamber now. I would be ashamed and embarrassed if I saw a record number of small businesses crushed by under my administration, but the Minister sits there peacocking, proudly saying that she is proud of her record when she should be ashamed. 40,000 small businesses have been crushed into insolvency under the Albanese government. This is not something to be proud of. It is something to be embarrassed and ashamed of, because sitting behind every one of those small businesses is the livelihoods, the incomes, the dignity, the pride of Australians backing themselves to get ahead. And what they are living with right now is increased costs, not just from the explicit increase in interest rates and inflation, but a cost of business crisis where millions of Australian small businesses are struggling to keep their head above the inflation water level, because they are experiencing push-down costs onto their small business, harming their profitability. And this morning I met with people from the restaurants and food sector. There are simply profit margins have collapsed. The capacity for a small business to be opened to serve Australians has declined, so much so that 1 in 9 Australian small businesses in the restaurant and hospitality sector has closed. Well, it is an extraordinary record of this government and something that they should be ashamed of. But it's not just the inflation impact. With state governments indexing so many of their taxes to inflation, we're seeing a direct hit from increases in inflation, second hit through interest rates, a third hit through the cost of taxation inflation, and in fact a fourth hit directly as a consequence of the Labor government's industrial relations agenda, which is pushing on inflationary costs further for small business and making it harder not just for small business to get ahead, but households to stay ahead, and so many are being pushed to the wall. And what is going with that, Deputy Speaker, isn't just a small business, as critical as that is, but sitting behind those millions of small businesses are employees, young Australians who are getting their first job, people who depend on small business for an income. And when a small business collapses, the wage disappears. It seems like a simple truth, Deputy Speaker, but when you have a small business collapse, the jobs go with it. There are no taxes paid, there is no income, there is no super on a job that doesn't exist. And this is the lived reality under the Albanese government. We know that as of the 2nd of February of this year, 41,749 businesses have gone bust under the Albanese government. In construction, 10,757, 6,487 in accommodation and food services, 2,046 in manufacturing, 1,168 in healthcare or social assistance, 541 in agriculture, forestry and fishery, and 406 in education and training. While the Minister on the other side of the table likes to boast about her record, she cannot hide from some simple facts. The 33,426 less employing small businesses in Australia. And I will take the interjection from the Minister for Small Business, Speaker, because what she said was maybe they were dodgy. Just like the Treasurer, her response to the challenges Australians and households face, their response to the challenges Australian and households and small business face is to punch down on Australians. This is not the type of country they want to be, and it is certainly not what they want to see from their Parliament.
I'd appreciate if everybody stopped yelling, actually. I can barely hear the member for Goldstone speaking. You have the call, Member for Goldstone.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. And this exposes the underbelly and the motivation of this government. There is a pure contempt for those people who make the effort and strive and back themselves to the point where they want to create not just opportunities for themselves, others. The response from the minister, and we just heard it in the chamber, and then she defended her comment, was maybe they were dodgy. The broad-brush allegations and criticism of small business, the demonisation of small businesses because of the attitude of this government is why we have seen record insolvencies. And now is the time those small businesses and those households need Australians to back them. They need this parliament to back them. But the contempt that we have from the minister shows something entirely different. That is why Australians are feeling the very real consequences of inflation and declining standards of living. Today we heard direct warnings that inflation was going to continue to eat into the household wealth of Australian households. People are going to live lower standards of living, less capacity to be able to support their families, less capacity to be able to go and employ others, all under this government. We have had a record of economic vandalism par excellence, if you call that as a standard, under the Albanese government. We've had Labor's economic vandalism where households are now paying 16% more for food, 18% more for health, 22% more for rents, and 39% more for insurance and nearly 40% more for electricity. And every one of those costs, every single one of those price rises goes to a small business, eats into their profit margins and increases their capacity to find their way to the ATO and ASIC to the point of insolvency. Why would a government be so proud of shutting down the pathways for Australians? We are in the business of backing small businesses to open their doors, to welcome their customers and to grow the opportunity in the economic base of our country. And any government, state or federal, or the Albanese government in particular, that looks at small business as simply an ATM to cover the costs that they face because they are unable to manage their reckless spending will continue to drive small business to the wall. We know that is happening because the analysis by the Australian Industry Group clearly shows 8 in 10 jobs created in this country right now is coming from direct and indirect public expenditure. We have a crisis of collapse of private investment and private jobs, despite what the Prime Minister and the Treasurer says. The problem of inflation that we have in this country comes directly from fiscal recklessness. The Chalmers interest rate rise cycle has sadly only just begun. And we have heard quotes from the retail sector, we have had quotes from so many different people in the small business sector that they know how bad this is going to be and how Australian small businesses and households will pay. We need them to rein in their spending, and people often ask on the other side of the chamber, where are you going to see cuts? I can tell you where we would cut expenditure. We would cut the cartel kickbacks that go to organised crime and to bikie gangs through the CFMEU that find their way into union coffers and into the coffers of the Australian Labor Party. And I'd make no apology about that because they're pushing up the cost of a new home for young Australians, they're pushing up construction costs, and they're contributing to the problems of inflation. Now is a time that people and Australians are looking to this parliament to stand up and make decisions in the national interest. Now is the time that they're looking at how this parliament is going to back them to prosper and to grow. And instead they are seeing and hearing the sneers of the Minister for Small Business for saying things like a small business that goes out of business must be because they are dodgy. This is a disgrace, and it is nothing short of contempt. The minister can throw whatever barbs she wants, because I can tell you the small businesses of this country know exactly who is on their side. They know that the Liberal Party has always stood up proudly, backed them in and made sure the laws of this country say, chance your hand, go for your life, we back you because you back yourselves. And what they don't deserve is a Prime Minister and a Minister for Small Business who punched down on them and tried to deny them their economic opportunity and their pathway for growth. We back small business. They want to hate on them.